Most women say they want a good man. They say it with conviction, with that spark in their eyes. But here's the twist. The moment they actually meet one, something inside them just shuts down. Not because he's boring, not because he did anything wrong. It's not even about attraction in the way you think. It's something much deeper, almost invisible. Something that has nothing to do with you personally. And that's what I want to unpack today. Because if you've ever felt confused, frustrated, or even a little defeated after showing up fully, consistently, and with integrity, you are not failing. You are simply running into a truth most men and women rarely talk about. Recognition depends on familiarity, not merit. Think about it like this. Imagine a forest. You're walking along a path you know, surrounded by trees, the same birdsong you've grown accustomed to. Then suddenly, a beautiful, rare tree appears, unlike anything you've ever seen. Striking, majestic, perfect in every way. But it feels uncomfortable, unfamiliar. Your body doesn't know how to respond. That's what being a good man can feel like to some women. Your presence is stable, consistent, and grounded, and it triggers something unexpected. Let me ask you a question. Why does doing everything right sometimes lead to rejection? Why does showing up, being honest, kind, and consistent not guarantee the love or recognition you deserve? I promise, by the end of this video, you'll understand the hidden psychology behind it, and more importantly, how to navigate it without losing yourself. 1. Conditioning versus familiarity. Let's start with a simple yet powerful idea. Many women are conditioned to equate love with chaos, drama, and unpredictability. From childhood, society, media, and even cultural narratives whisper one story over and over. Love is intense, passionate, and sometimes painful. Attention equals excitement. Intensity equals attraction. Think about your typical romantic storylines in movies or TV. How often is the calm, dependable guy the hero who gets the girl? Rarely. The narrative celebrates highs and lows, emotional roller coasters, and conflict. That constant tension becomes emotionally familiar, even comforting in a twisted way. Now, compare that to a good man, the kind of man who keeps his word without needing praise, handles emotions calmly, maintains personal boundaries, stays consistent even when it's inconvenient. To someone conditioned to love chaos, this calm reliability feels foreign, almost threatening. It doesn't trigger butterflies. It triggers curiosity, caution, or even distrust. Your nervous system might interpret consistency as inauthentic or too predictable, simply because it doesn't match the internal blueprint she's grown up with. Here's a real-world example. I had a friend, let's call him Jake. Jake is the definition of grounded. He's consistent, kind, emotionally aware. He dates a woman who says she wants stability. At first, she's intrigued, but after a few weeks, she starts pulling away. She tells him she needs space or that she doesn't feel the spark. Jake is puzzled. He's literally doing everything right. But here's the kicker. She's not rejecting Jake's goodness. She's rejecting the unfamiliarity of it. Her brain is wired to recognize drama, not calm. And this is where most men get it wrong. They think, if I just try harder, if I show more love, if I fix more, she'll finally see me. But in reality, it's not about effort. It's about conditioned recognition. Your presence isn't triggering a familiar pattern, so her nervous system hesitates. Number 2, nice guy versus good man. Here's a distinction that's crucial. Nice guy not equal good man. A nice guy bends, adapts, and seeks approval. He's constantly trying to be liked, often at the expense of his own boundaries. He's reactive, not anchored. A good man, on the other hand, is principled. he's consistent. He's emotionally regulated. His value isn't dependent on praise or validation. Now, this is where the magic and the challenge comes in. Emotional familiarity drives attraction more than moral or behavioral quality. You can be objectively better in every way, but if your consistency doesn't match what someone's nervous system is wired to recognize, it might feel unrecognizable. Let me tell you another story. I coached a man, let's call him Alex. He's the kind of guy who keeps promises, communicates openly, and always shows up. His partner initially seemed interested, but over time she started testing him in subtle ways. Late-night arguments over nothing, picking fights over trivial matters. Alex was confused. Why wasn't his consistency working? After digging deeper, we realized her nervous system had learned to associate love with chaos. Calm and consistency weren't rewarding. They were foreign territory. And here's the mind bender. Alex didn't need to change his goodness. He needed to understand that his natural qualities would attract the right alignment, but repel what was conditioned to familiarity with chaos. Pause for a moment. Ask yourself, have you ever been rejected or misunderstood, not because of what you did wrong, but because what you offered felt unfamiliar? Comment below. I'd love to hear your experience. And if this is hitting home, give this video a like to let other men know they're not alone. So we've talked about conditioning versus familiarity and why being a good man can sometimes feel like showing up in a foreign land. Now, let's dive deeper into something that's often overlooked, the cultural and learned patterns that shape attraction, and sometimes rejection. 3. Cultural influence and learned patterns. Think back to childhood. Who were the male role models in her life? Was there a grounded, emotionally available father figure? Or were the examples inconsistent, absent, or chaotic? Many women grow up without a healthy model for stability in men. And here's where culture steps in. Movies, TV, social media, all of it subtly teaches that attention equals power, drama equals passion, highs equal love. Emotional calm, predictable consistency, boring. Let me give you a concrete example. A client of mine, we'll call him Daniel, dates a woman who grew up with an emotionally unpredictable father. Her experience taught her intensity equals attention, chaos equals love. When Daniel showed up with calm confidence, steady support, and emotional regulation, she didn't feel sparked. She felt uneasy. Over time, she even accused him of being too safe or unexciting. And here's the twist. It's not about Daniel being boring or about her being shallow. It's about what her nervous system is wired to recognize as familiar. This is why emotional familiarity often trumps moral quality. You can be an exceptional human being, but if your presence doesn't match her internal blueprint, she might subconsciously reject it. Insight. Attraction is often tied to what feels familiar, not what's objectively healthy or virtuous. 4. Trauma bonding and emotional misalignment. Now, let's escalate this a bit. Some women and some men develop trauma bonds. This happens when the nervous system links pain, anxiety, or unpredictability with attachment. The classic fight or flight triggers become strangely associated with intimacy. Imagine this. A woman who's experienced chaos in relationships feels a certain thrill when tension arises. Conflict triggers dopamine. Calm, consistent gestures, however, can feel like a threat because they don't trigger the learned pattern of emotional highs. Here's a real-world twist. I knew a man, let's call him Ryan, who was the epitome of a good man, grounded, consistent, principled. His partner initially responded well, but over months, she unconsciously tested his stability in small ways. Late night arguments, subtle criticism, even disappearing acts. Ryan, being a good man, tried to fix it, offer reassurance, absorb her emotional swings, give more than he should. But what happened? Her nervous system craved what was familiar: chaos, unpredictability, not the stability Ryan offered. Despite his best intentions, his goodness was misunderstood as detachment or even boringness. Insight. Doing the right thing as a good man can unintentionally activate discomfort in someone conditioned to chaos. This is not your failure. It's a wiring issue, and understanding it is the first step to breaking the cycle. Number 5, cost to the good man. Now here's where the story gets darker and where most men lose themselves without even realizing it. Many good men fall into the savior instinct trap. They try to absorb trauma, stabilize, and fix. They believe if they just love harder or show more patience, things will normalize. The problem? Emotional labor comes at a cost. Every time a good man sacrifices his own growth, purpose, and energy to support someone else's unconscious patterns, he erodes his identity. Over time, frustration, resentment, and stagnation creep in. Let me illustrate. I had a client, Mark. He was dating a woman who tested his patience constantly, sometimes subtly, sometimes overtly. Mark, being the good man he was, kept showing up, solving problems, and holding the relationship together. But 6 months in, Mark felt exhausted, invisible, and stuck. His personal goals were sidelined, his energy drained. He asked me, "Why does doing everything right feel so wrong?" And here's the truth bomb. Integrity doesn't mean absorbing someone else's unresolved patterns. Being a good man does not equate to being a reparenting hero. Overcompensation can silently erase your own life. Insight. Grounded men can get trapped supporting others at their own expense, but it's entirely preventable if boundaries and self-respect are maintained. Reclaiming power and setting boundaries. So, what does a good man do when faced with these patterns? How does he navigate rejection that isn't about his worth? How does he protect his energy without giving up integrity? Here's the roadmap. First, recognize that unfamiliarity, not reject of your worth. Her nervous system may be conditioned to chaos, not to calm consistency. Second, stop absorbing trauma that isn't yours to fix. You cannot reparent an adult. You can support growth, yes, but not at the cost of your own stability. 3, maintain your integrity, standards, and direction. Be the man you are consistently. Don't dilute your principles to gain approval. 4, choose relationships consciously. Seek alignment with people willing to grow, communicate, and match your consistency. Here's a story to cement this. A client, let's call him Liam, realized his girlfriend's anxiety and testing patterns were triggering old familiar chaos for her. Instead of bending to fix it, he stayed grounded, kept his routines, and communicated his boundaries. Within weeks, dynamics shifted. The unhealthy push-pull began to dissipate. She either adapted or drifted away. And the twist? He attracted someone aligned with his stability, someone who recognized his goodness as a gift, not a threat. Insight. A good man doesn't reparent adults. He leads himself and filters out dynamics that erode him. Integrity is the quiet magnet. It draws the right people and naturally repels the wrong ones. Here's the moment where most men have a "wait, what?" realization. Staying grounded triggers a natural filter. The wrong dynamics drift away. The misalignments reveal themselves early. The energy spent on drama and chaos evaporates. It's almost paradoxical. By not chasing approval, not overcompensating, and not trying to fix everything, you start seeing clarity. You reclaim power, not by controlling others, but by mastering your own presence. And here's the subtle suspense. If you've been chasing validation, chaos, or trying to win someone over by being everything they need, the next few weeks or months of consistent presence might reveal truths you weren't ready to see before. Some relationships will disappear like mist in the morning, and others will finally align perfectly. This is the moment of empowerment, the subtle but powerful high point where your life shifts from reactive to intentional. I want you to pause and reflect. Are you overextending yourself to absorb someone else's chaos? Comment below with one boundary you've struggled to set or one area where you want to reclaim your energy. And if you find this perspective eye-opening, share it with a friend who might also be trying too hard to fix someone else. We've walked through conditioning, cultural influence, trauma bonding, and the cost of overextending as a good man. Now, let's reach the climax, the moment where understanding turns into empowerment. Here's the paradoxical truth. The very qualities that some women unconsciously reject, calmness, consistency, integrity, are the same qualities that naturally filter out the wrong dynamics and attract the right alignment. Think about it. When you stay grounded, the relationships that thrive are aligned and healthy. The ones that were never compatible start to fade away. You stop spinning your energy on drama, manipulation, or unearned attachment. It's like tending a garden. You can't force flowers to grow where the soil isn't fertile. You water, nurture, and create the right environment, and the plants that are meant to bloom will do so naturally. The weeds, they wither and drift away. Calm, clarity, and consistency as a magnet. Here's a twist most men never realize. Being consistent, calm, and clear isn't boring, it's magnetic. I remember coaching a man named Thomas. He had been burned in several relationships because he tried to fix partners' insecurities. One day, he stopped chasing approval and doubled down on his own life, career, routines, passions, and emotional clarity. Within months, not only did he attract someone aligned with his values, but he also felt the shift internally. Confidence, self-respect, and attraction flowed naturally. It's almost counterintuitive. By not bending, by not overcompensating, by not seeking validation, you create the conditions for true connection. The right alignment isn't forced. It's naturally drawn to your stability. Here's the subtle but shocking truth for many men. A good man may be unrecognized not because of inadequacy, but because of unfamiliarity. Women may reject stability because it feels foreign. Trauma patterns can make calm presence feel threatening. Cultural conditioning teaches them to mistake chaos for chemistry. But here's the empowering part. Recognition eventually comes to those who maintain integrity and boundaries. You don't need to change who you are. You need to stand firm, stay consistent, and lead your own life. And when that happens, you don't just attract someone, you attract alignment, a relationship where both people grow consciously, respect boundaries, and appreciate stability as the rare treasure it truly is. Let's summarize the 5 core truths every good man must understand. 1. Women may reject stability because it feels unfamiliar. Being consistent and grounded can initially trigger withdrawal because it doesn't match their internal blueprint. 2. Familiarity drives recognition and attraction more than virtue. Doing everything right doesn't guarantee acceptance if it's unfamiliar to her nervous system. 3. Trauma bonding can associate pain with attachment. Chaos feels familiar. Calm feels foreign, which can trigger fight or flight responses. 4. Good men can vanish inside relationships if they overcompensate. Absorbing someone else's unresolved patterns drains energy, erodes identity, and prevents alignment. 5. Reclaiming integrity, boundaries, and personal direction restores alignment. Staying grounded acts as a natural filter, repelling misalignment and attracting conscious compatibility. Here's the part where I want you to engage. Comment below one area you refuse to compromise on. Share the boundary or value you will protect no matter what. Like this video if it helped you see why being a good man isn't failing. It's magnetic when aligned correctly. Share with a friend who's frustrated in dating. Help them stop blaming themselves and start understanding patterns instead. Subscribe if you're committed to conscious growth, understanding female psychology, and navigating relationships without losing yourself. Remember, being a good man isn't about fixing everyone else. It's about leading yourself, staying consistent, and letting life naturally filter what belongs and what doesn't. The right alignment is waiting for those who understand this truth. Let me leave you with one last story, because stories stick more than principles. A man named Eric came to me, frustrated after years of being the perfect boyfriend. He was kind, consistent, and patient, yet women would pull away, sometimes subtly, sometimes abruptly. For a while, he blamed himself. Then he did something radical. He focused solely on his own growth, passions, and principles, no longer overcompensating. Within months, a woman entered his life, not drawn to what he did for her, but to who he was, fully grounded and unapologetic. The twist? Eric realized the relationships he had been chasing before weren't wrong, they simply weren't meant for him. By staying true to himself, the universe filtered them out naturally. And that, my friend, is the secret most men never hear. Being good doesn't always mean being accepted, but it always means attracting the right alignment. Drop a comment if you've ever experienced the unfamiliarity rejection we talked about. Like and share this video to help other men understand the difference between trying harder and showing up fully as themselves. And remember, subscribe to commit to conscious growth and alignment in your relationship.